Are you tired of the constraints of the standard GPT interface when you're building your custom GPT? When you're trying to build out complex functions, or it's even a nightmare when you're trying to deploy it into a website. In most cases, you would need to use Python for communicating with the OpenAI's assistant. In this video, I will guide you through using OpenAI's assistant API's thread capabilities to create a custom GPT that breaks free from traditional constraints. You'll learn how to use Replit for API communication and be introduced to the essential low-code Python you need to get started on building your custom GPTs. This session is your first step towards a versatile AI that can be integrated seamlessly across platforms. In a future video, I'll show you how you can deploy this into AI-created websites. This capability opens up endless possibilities for enhancing website interfaces, customer service, and more with AI solutions that can be tailored to any business needs. So let's get started. Don't forget to download my free resource on monetizing custom GPT solutions to get the most of your chatbot projects. For more personalized advice, book a 15-minute call with me via Calendly and let's discuss your project in detail. Okay, first go to platform.openai.com/assistance. Click create, and you're gonna give a name of the assistant. In my case, I'm going to create a Tim Ferriss style AI mentor, which is going to be trained on knowledge bases from Tim Ferriss's famous books. I provided also a set of instructions, which is essentially the prompt needed for the chatbot to respond in the style and tone of Tim Ferriss. I'm going to link the prompt for you absolutely free in the description below, so you can use that as well and test it out. Then I'm going to select the best model out there from OpenAI, which is the GPT-4 Turbo. Another thing, to conserve your costs, I would recommend starting with GPT 3.5, and then when you're ready, you can boost up to GPT-4. I'm going to now load up some PDF files, which is essentially some of Tim Ferriss's famous books, which is The 4-Hour Body, The 4-Hour Workweek, and The 4-Hour Chef. So these knowledge bases are going to provide a base knowledge for the chatbot to retrieve information and construct its responses. Okay, I have everything I need for this chatbot. In a later video, I'm going to show you how to also create functions, but for the purpose of this video, we'll just stick with knowledge base and a prompt to design this AI chatbot with OpenAI's GPT Builder. Go ahead and click save. You'll be provided an assistant ID. Copy and paste it somewhere safe. You're going to be using this assistant ID along with OpenAI's API key to interact with the chatbot later on with Python. So now I'm going to show you how you can obtain your API keys. Notice I already have a list of API keys already enabled. You can create your own by clicking on Create New Secret Key. If for some reason you're not able to access the GPT-4 models, make sure you add some money into your account. When you add to your credit balance, you'll automatically be able to access GPT-4 models, but pay attention to your usage because you would want to conserve your usage as much as possible. Once you have your assistant ID as well as your API key, we're going to now go over to Replit. Replit is an online platform that allows you to write, run, and share code right from your browser. It supports many programming languages, including Python, which we will use to interact with our OpenAI assistant, and it offers an integrated development environment. This means that you can code, compile, and execute your programs all in one place without needing to install anything on your computer. I already have an account, but you could get started for free. Create your account, The only caveat with the free account is that your code is going to be public, but I'll show you a technique you can use to hide your API keys so that you can take advantage of the free account as well. Okay, once you sign up to Replit, you can create a REPL. So it's basically a project. So we'll just call this project, let's say OpenAI Assistant Starter. Make sure the template language is in Python. And in my case, it's private, but for your case, it would be public because it's a free account. Okay, once you start your REPL or your template, you're going to see this workspace. Let me go ahead and orient you into the different components of the workspace. You're going to have a file section. This section shows the list of files in your current project. You can add, delete, or edit files here, including your main code files or additional modules or any resources your project needs, like text images or images, etc. Code interface. This is the central part of the workspace. This is the code editor where you write and edit your code. It supports syntax highlighting and auto completion for Python that we're going to use. Then you have the console. The console, typically located at the bottom of the workspace, is where your code output is displayed when you run it. Okay, we're going to use Python's import function to import a bunch of packages. Packages are basically a collection of functions. One such package is the OpenAI package. Let's go over how a system works before we dive into the actual code. Let's say we want to interact with the bot, so we're going to ask a query or a question to the bot. As soon as we start that interaction, it's going to create something called a thread, which is basically a conversation session between an assistant and the user. The thread uses something called memory to take advantage of previous conversation exchange or history for that particular thread to give the perfect response. In the run step, the assistant can also determine how it's going to process your query or your question. It can basically take advantage of your previous conversation exchanges. It can also refer to the knowledge base you've provided. It can also call some functions or tools that are also embedded into the assistant. In a later video, I'm going to show you how to build these tools or functions so that the chatbot can call these functions if necessary and return the output from those functions. All right, let's start writing our code. First, we're going to ensure that the version of OpenAI is 1.1.1. We're also going to connect with our OpenAI API key, and then we're also going to connect our assistant ID. This is going to be the ID that when we created our assistant. So click on secrets under tools, and then this is where you're going to paste in your OpenAI API key. Make sure the key is written exactly as it is, OpenAI _ API _ key, and you paste your the value into that value box. Okay, so in this way you can have a public code without exposing your API keys. Next, you're going to create a new file by clicking on new file under files, and then we'll call this functions.py. So in functions.py, we're just going to write all the functions that we need for our assistant to work. And in the main.py, we're just going to keep the code that's needed to import the functions as well as running the Flask application for the assistant. Go ahead and copy the import functions as well as the API connection code into the functions.py. This is essential to run the functions as well. I've already created a function that takes the thread ID and the user's input to create an output by interacting with the assistant API. If there is no thread ID provided, it creates a new thread ID. Don't worry, I'm going to give you the whole Replit template you can fork so that you don't have to write all the code from scratch, and you can modify as necessary. Notice here that we have the function get assistant response. We have the thread ID and the user input as an input. Additionally, when I get the response back from the assistant, it's going to be in a JSON format. Here I'm doing some text processing to pull the response out in a way that's readable. I'm also calling the assistant every 0.5 seconds to see if it has an answer. This ensures that I am quickly getting the response without much delay. Okay, now go back to the main.py file and then import functions. What's going to do is import that file that we created called functions.py and import all the functions from that file. And in order to make sure that we're calling the get assistant function specifically in that functions.py file, we just add a functions prefix to the get assistant response. Okay, this should be everything that we need to interact with the assistant. In our first run, I'm just going to leave the thread ID blank so that it can create a new thread ID. The user input is going to be who are you? And the first instance when I run, it's going to install a bunch of packages that are needed to run the application. Notice I have an error. That's fine. I'm going to diagnose the error. It looks like I'm missing the version package, so I've loaded the version function from the packaging feature. I'm rerunning the application again. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Okay, it looks like we have another error, so I'm going to teach you how to diagnose this error as well. So it looks like OpenAI is not defined. OpenAI is a function. We haven't imported the OpenAI function from the OpenAI package. So this is how we're going to diagnose this. All right, so let's see if it runs successfully on the third attempt. Okay, it looks like it's giving us a response back from the assistant. The status code 200 means that it ran successfully. Okay, and we get the message back. And don't worry if the message looks a little bit unreadable. There's a reason why we use this format. I'm gonna show you in the next video how to integrate this into a website so we can get the messages back in a clear, consistent format. So we asked who are you to the assistant. It looks like the assistant gave me the response that I was looking for based on the instruction or prompt that I provided it. I wanted it to act like a mentor in the form of Tim Ferriss, so this should be good. Also, if I can have your attention at the bottom of the message where the assistant also provided me the thread ID. So the thread ID is going to save this as a conversation history, and I could interact with the chatbot going forward using the same thread ID so that it recalls my previous messages and conversation history. Okay, so let's have a little bit more fun with this. Let's ask, what are the 3 easy things to cook for a beginner? Now, I can imagine it pulling the information from Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Chef, and giving me the desired response. It looks like it gave me a response here. It looks like a recipe from the book. 3 ways to cook. 3 techniques are considered, blah, blah, blah. What it involves, braising, typically includes browning. Okay, so this is great. It gave me, 3 easy things to cook for a beginner. Go ahead and go to the bottom of the message. You're gonna see the thread ID section. Copy the thread ID. Now you're going to paste the thread ID in this variable section here called thread ID. And we're going to ask a follow-up question. Let's see if it can recall my past conversation. I'm gonna say, give me another easy method. So it should pull from the context of my last message that I was asking for easy beginner cooking methods. So let's see if it understands what I'm actually asking for. Okay, it looks like it gave me a response. Certainly another easy and versatile cooking method. So as you can see, it understood that I'm asking about cooking. Now also, you can reduce the size of the output and increase the speed of the responses coming back by doing some prompt engineering. If you want to learn some of the best practices for prompt engineering and also conserving your token output, make sure you download my free resource on monetizing custom GPTs. There I'll give you a bunch of free resources pertaining to prompt engineering, components of GPT, as well as market size and opportunity for your specific niche if you're building out custom GPTs. Don't forget to check out the link to the resources for this video below, including the Replit template that you can fork and replicate for your project. Your journey to AI mastery begins now. If you also need help with Python, I created another video on how you can learn Python using custom GPTs. See how easy that was? We've learned how to utilize OpenAI's Assistant API to enhance your GPT with memory and conversational depth. We set up Replit for effective API communication with minimum coding required. We activated and leveraged thread capabilities to create more engaging and personalized AI interactions. Now watch the second video where I'll teach you how you can integrate this custom GPT into a website. And the website, you can also create it in 30 seconds or less using AI. Remember, the power of custom GPT is now in your hands. Unleash it and watch the world transform.